Hey, and welcome back to 80 West. This is your host, Ryan Banks. You're listening to episode 4. And it is my pleasure today to bring our guest, Mr. Sean Stepp, into the studio. What's going on, Sean?
Not much, dude. How you doing?
What's happening? So most of you guys probably know Sean the same way I do. That's from playing in Civil War Rust, our band together. And today we're going to explore a little bit of what happened before Civil War Rust, kind of get Sean's story in the music game out here in the East Bay. So where do you want to start at? You want to start way back Liberty High School?
Oh, yeah. Liberty. Go Lions.
So you're in Liberty High School. I mean, what years are you there?
I was supposed to be there from 97, 98 to 2001, 2002, I think. But
didn't go as planned.
No, well, I like to think that I got the most for my parents' tax dollars and just stayed in high school for 6 years. So,
Yeah, beat the system there. So Liberty High School is Brentwood, California. That's way out here in East County.
Yep.
So that's kind of where all these stories tie into. You start out, what are you playing? Are you playing guitar in high school? Are you playing the drums?
So the first band ever, I was in a band called 16 Penny, and I played guitar in that, actually. So I started playing guitar at a young age. That was my first band. 16 Penny later became B-rated after they kicked me out, and they didn't kick me out. We broke up, and they started a new band with everyone but me. The very next day.
That's the old kick out.
Yeah, that's
the other way of kicking someone out.
Yeah, but that's cool. Then I switched to drums after that because
after 16 Penny, was there anything ever recorded by 16 Penny?
Yeah,
there was.
Yeah,
was there shows? Garages or talent shoends or
we played. We only played like 2 or 3 shows, and they were all at our friends, Garrett Kelly and Mary Beth Kelly. Their parents let us throw punk rock shows out in Knightson in a barn that they had. And so...
Is this off Delta Road or...
No, fuck.
There's only 2 streets through Knightson, right?
Yeah, it was the other one. It was... Delta Road or
I'll
whatever.
Take your, yeah.
Yeah. But we played 2 or 3 shows there, and we did a bunch of recording. We didn't know what we were doing. We were kids.
Yeah, so that's early on, 16, 17 years old. And then you start playing the drums, or you playing at that time?
Well, I tried to start another band, writing the songs that I wanted to play, but everybody played guitar. I could never find any drummers, and the drummers that I could find, they wanted to play Tool or like
the Deftones,
or what was that other hippie band? I can't remember.
Everything that was popular at that time.
Yeah, pretty much. Oleander, I think.
Oh Lord,
stuff.
wow.
Yeah, there you go. Like that kind of. I guess Oleander wasn't a hippie band, but
just more modern rock.
Yeah,
or
so
whatever it was.
Everyone I talked to, they were like, "Oh, I play guitar. Do you play drums?" And I'm like, "No." But eventually, I finally said, "Yeah, I play drums." And then I went and bought drums and learned how to play drums. And that's kind of where that's where I started playing a lot of shows.
Yeah, and taking more to the punk influences and what happened.
Yeah.
So you start playing the drums. Now, what kind of bands were you influenced by at that time?
Well, at the time, the first band that I ever played drums in was a band. It was a band called Delouse. And I played in that band for a few months with our good friend Mike Eccles.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, shit. He doesn't go by that name. Clyde Clyderson Haven dude.
Mike, if he's listening, what's going on?
Yeah. Hi, Mike. So I did one show with them in the school courtyard, and that's kind of where I learned how to play drums. I listened to a lot of Ojo Rojo back then, some El Dopa. I really liked the Criminals, stuff like that,
Some real early East Bay influences.
Yeah, Econochrist, Strychnine, all those,
wow.
I don't know, stuff. Like, I put it on now, and it's nostalgic for me, and I'm just like, oh, dang.
A lot of memories in a lot of those songs.
I'm only gonna get through that one once every couple months, but yeah, it's good stuff. I loved it. I loved it as a kid.
It's always fun to go back to some of those records you listened to years ago.
Yeah.
And the memories, and sometimes you remembered the band to be a little bit better or more well recorded sometimes than they were.
Well, to me, it was kind of like one of those things where I would hear it and I'd be like, yeah, that's something I can do. I can do that. And so I started trying to emulate it and do it. And next thing you know, like I'm doing other things, like
Yeah, I think that a lot of times that's everyone's introduction to punk is just kind of hearing something that you go, wait, I can play those 3 chords. Maybe I'll start a band.
yeah.
And that's probably the best thing about punk rock and getting people involved. So at that point, are you going to shows? Are you going to shows at Gilman at that point?
Yeah. So I actually grew up in a town called Byron, which is about 15 minutes past Brentwood. So Byron is in between Brentwood and Tracy, California. And so about the age of 15, I would walk the 2 or 3 miles to Brentwood and catch a bus from Brentwood to take me to a bus in Antioch. And then that bus in Antioch would take me to the BART station in Pittsburgh. And then I would go to Berkeley and I would spend my entire weekend at Gilman Street. It didn't matter who was playing. That was just the place.
Yeah, everybody was there at that time. So it's took you about 3-4 hours to get out into Berkeley.
Oh, yeah, man.
A lot of times.
Yeah, I was mowing hella lawns and riding hella buses and coming back broke. And
that's a pilgrimage I feel that's kind of lost today.
yeah.
I don't feel like you hear so many stories. We always talk about what it was like to wait in line to buy concert tickets.
Oh.
You'd show up the 2 hours before the tickets went on sale and have to wait in line out at Bass Tickets, to get something.
What is it, Thrifties on East 18th?
Yeah, Thrifties or Gottschalks in the County East Mall. Even worse. So, yeah, I feel like some of that is lost on today. So you're going out to Gilman at that time, hanging out all weekend, seeing shows Friday, Saturday, Sunday night. I remember doing that. A little bit after that, but around the same time. And what kind of bands are you seeing? Who's there?
My first show ever, my first weekend there, I got the full spectrum. My first ever show at Gilman Street was Groovy Ghoulies, Pansy Division, and I'm pretty sure Mr. T Experience was there as well. That was on a Friday night.
Yeah, standard bill out there a lot of times.
Yeah, and then Saturday night I turned around and saw Dystopia and some other crusty bands, and I was like, my God. And that was kind of where, I went to Gilman straight edge on Friday and came back Saturday a drunk.
Yeah, stoned to the bone.
It was just like, I got the best of both worlds and picked my route for a little while. And
yeah, there was many weekends like that at Gilman, So you come back back into East County, during the week. You're going to high school. You're writing songs with Delouse, and then or helping with that. And then as you get out of high school, what kind of music are you playing? Is it still that crust? Is it becoming more influenced by other bands?
So that brief moment with Delouse, I wound up going and starting a band with a couple of my childhood friends, Dave Sanders and Steven Stawicki, and we started a band called The Crows. Didn't know what we were doing. They really liked Pennywise and NoFX a lot. I was like, sure, okay, I'm into the Criminals and AFI.
And you're still playing the drums in this band.
I'm playing the drums at this point, and that was kind of it was a great teenage experience, but that led me to meet my good friends Robbie Kimsey and Drew, who plays with us. They were also members of the Crows.
I think a lot of people might remember the Crows, kind of from that early 10-strip scene. And playing shows with the .commies and RU36 way back when, that ties into East County roots. You guys may remember the Crows. That was Sean on the drums. So you're playing shows. You're meeting a lot of the guys that are still playing out here at that time. And so the Crows, your guys are playing shows at like the Dock or?
We never played the Dock. We did a lot of Roosters Roadhouse shows back in the day.
Alameda, venue's still there, I think.
The original Metro, when it was on the corner of
Broadway and 2nd.
Broadway and 2nd, when it was a little tiny room. They had the bleachers, made it look like the Smells Like Teen Spirit music video.
Yeah, that was a great venue.
I love
the
that
early
venue.
Metro.
Yeah.
It only took 100 people to fill that place. And it just seemed that it was always full.
And that was back, I think, in a time too when 100 people just went to a show on a whim.
Yeah, like you were saying, it didn't matter who was playing Gilman or who was playing the Metro or Roosters. You just heard your friends were going, and you just jumped in a car and went.
I think it's because you had to pay for porn back then. Now that it's free, people just don't fucking leave their house.
That could very well be. Yeah,
back then you had to pay for it.
A handheld device can really deliver you anything now, so people...
High def in my pocket.
It's really not a bad way to go. So those were some great early shows there in Alameda. I remember seeing you guys play back then, and that really led into what all the guys that were around at that time seemed like they're still around. A lot of bands were formed there and a lot of relationships formed with a lot of the guys that were around at that time.
Absolutely.
So it totally was an exciting time to be there. We're going to look into a little bit more about you joining Civil War Rust, which comes shortly after this. A little bit of your and my time playing acoustic music in and around town. And then we're going to get more into some of the newer stuff you're doing with Twin Screw Steamer and Def Cow Records. We're going to take our first break here, and we'll be right back with more with Sean.
I was up all night with the bluest eyes on the warm beaches of San Diego. Moving like a wrecking ball as I make my way through California. I was up all night with the bluest eyes on the warm beaches of San Diego. Moving like a wrecking ball as I make my way through California. I was up all night with the bluest eyes on the warm beaches of San Diego.
All right, we are back with our guest, Sean, my good friend. What's going on?
Not much.
So we're looking at the early days, you coming out of Liberty High School, playing with the band The Crows, getting involved in the 10-strip scene that's out here. After The Crows, you end up getting involved with Hollowhead. A lot of people might remember them. Our first guest, Glenn. So you end up in Hollowhead, and that's in around 2005?
Yeah, somewhere around there. I was like 24, 25. And Drew had actually started playing drums for the Crows because I realized I really wasn't all that great at playing drums, and he was a lot better. And we ended up asking our bass player to leave in the studio, and I just turned around and bought a bass and started playing bass, and that's how I became a bass player. And
that was joining Hollowhead.
That was... No, I was playing...
Oh, that's still with the Crows.
Yeah, I started playing bass with the Crows. Robbie from the .commies joined. Danny Castantini was our drummer for a hot second before he joined Poor Bailey.
Okay.
Then Drew started playing drums, and...
so that's towards the end of the Crows.
Yeah, when the Crows got impregnated, well, not all of us, just one of us. one of us had a child. The band just kind of stopped.
Sure.
And Hollowhead needed a bass player, and Drew and I were playing a lot together and working a lot together in the beer company, so it just kind of made sense that one of our bands stopped practicing, so I started playing with Hollowhead, and that's how I really met Glenn. I mean, I kind of knew him a little bit before, but that's when I met Glenn and Brian.
So you and Drew joined Hollowhead at the same time?
No, Drew was already in Hollowhead.
Okay.
Yeah.
So Drew's in Hollowhead. You end up joining as the bass player. Mm-hmm. That's where you meet up with Glenn and Brian Lucchese, our other longtime friend from out here.
Yeah.
And Hollowhead's kind of already in the scene out in Oakland. They're playing a lot of shows. I mean, they are playing house parties out in the East County, but they're really involved out in what's going on in Oakland and San Francisco. Now, this is 2005. What venues are you guys playing as Hollowhead?
We're playing everything from what's that church in Brentwood?
The Epidemic.
We were playing the Epidemic.
Wow,
it was
great
huge.
venue.
We were playing the original Metro. We played there with one of my favorite shows that I ever played with them was with Watch Them Die. I fucking loved that band.
And that's
for a
at the
minute.
old Oakland Metro.
That's the
2nd
old
and
Oakland
Broadway.
Yeah, and so I joined that band, and I was pumped because they were established and they were doing stuff. I was like, yes, finally, like I'm gonna go on tour.
You've arrived.
Yeah, I had arrived. And a couple months into that, I kind of realized it was like there was, I don't want to say it was losing steam, but I came at the tail end of it. Like they
And
were
everybody
pushing
was
and,
busy in that band with
Yeah.
other projects,
Yeah, Glenn-
with life.
Glenn was getting heavily serious into his tattoos at the time and,
Yeah.
and artwork in general. It was just life, it was that rough period of time where we're all 25, 26, 27 years old and things are happening. And, I realized, okay, I'm in this band. It's kind of slowing down, but that's still awesome. And we're technically, really, we're still a band, man. We never broke up. We just stopped playing
Hollowhead,
shows.
there always could be a reunion show, I have been threatened with it before.
Yeah, but so that's how that started, and that was like one of my favorite bands to play in. It was just so much fun. Like,
And that's like a grindcore speed type band.
yeah, it's the only band that I played almost every show without my shirt on.
Wow.
Yeah, it was before I got this stomach on.
That was the early days, 25, 26 years old.
Hey,
that was
man.
easy times,
Yeah,
right?
Yeah, 25, 26 was the year of going back to your birth attire.
There you go.
Yeah.
So those were good times in Hollowhead. I know a lot of our listeners will know that band. And I think there's still music available online if you wanted to find it.
We got a pretty awesome-ish music video up there. I think some folks have loaded the music up to YouTube. It's like I said, YouTube, the internet is blown up, so stuff is everywhere except for the Crows. I've made it very impossible for you to find that.
You can't find that music. You'd have to corner them in a dark room to get that. But so Hollowhead is available out there for you guys to listen to. Check those guys out. It was a really cool band at the time and brought a lot of energy to the live shows and really was a great band and had a great thing going for a long time. So Hollowhead, let's see the reunion coming soon. After that, you end up continuing with Drew, kind of in the metal and the heavier type, and that was when Robbie from the Dot Commies and you guys formed Clavo Oxidado.
Yeah, it started as a joke band. We it really was a joke. It was just a reason for us to hang out. We decided one summer that we were going to not smoke weed. We had a bunch of pipes that were clogged with resin. So we made a pact that we would only smoke resin at band practice, and we wrote this entire record.
No fresh green.
No fresh green. At band practice. We still smoked like weed sure. When we weren't at practice. But when Clavo Oxidado, which means rusty nail in Spanish, that's a joke in and of itself. Maybe next time I visit we can get into that. But so we record this whole record this one summer. We called it the Summer of Resin, and
was that the name of the record?
The record never saw the light of the day.
Okay.
I'm getting to that. So we smoke a bunch of resin, clean out all of Drew's pipes, and Drew's roommate's pipes. They figured out what was going on and started donating.
And these are some thick resin pipes.
Oh yeah, man.
These things have been around since high school.
Yeah, like these are the first time they've been cleaned
my
since
first
high
pipe.
school, right? So we write this whole record and record it with Robbie. That was the beginning of Robbie really starting to do recordings and stuff. And we do it.
Definitely.
And we record everything, and then we finish it and decide we're going to smoke a big green bowl when we listen to it for the first time. It was unlistenable.
Really? So you guys smoked out, sat back to listen to your masterpiece, and there was nothing there.
No, it scrapped the whole fucking
Really?
thing.
How many songs did you guys do?
I don't know, 5, 6. It doesn't. It was metal. That was the thing, is we were doing like stoner metal, but none of us were metalheads. Like grindcore. Hollowhead was more towards the punk rock side of the grindcore metal type thing.
Yeah.
So this was pushing the boundaries for everyone involved. And don't smoke resin and try and be productive.
Yeah, that's a great thing to take home,
Sure.
to all our listeners. Don't smoke too much resin, period. So about that time, I know where that record was recorded was in Martinez. And
that was before that
started?
record.
Oh, that was before that record.
Yeah.
Okay.
We did a thing called the Smut House demo.
Okay.
Drew lived in a house that looked like it was a porn house.
A 70s porn house. And that's kind of where I started playing music with you guys.
Yeah.
Or at least with you. And that's where I met you. Because I remember the Clavo project was going on. And Rudy, our early guitar player from Civil War Rust, had invited me out to play with you guys.
Yeah.
And I remember coming over to that house. It was a really cool house over in Alhambra Valley in Martinez.
That pool, though, man. That pool. And the turkeys, the wild turkeys.
So getting out there, I remember coming in and meeting you for the first time. And you guys had a few songs together. And there wasn't really a band yet. And you guys were, just kind of seeing what was going on. And I remember hearing some of those songs and just coming in. And that was a different sound than any of your other bands previously.
Yeah.
I mean, that was a whole different sound. You were taking the lead on the songwriting at that point.
Yeah, I had kind of gotten tired of arguing with people writing songs about how I kind of wanted them to sound. I guess it was rude on my part. I mean, they're writing the songs, and I'm trying to tell them how they should sound. And I was like, fuck this. I'm going to write my own stuff.
I think that's a noble approach to it, though. Write your own. Right?
Yeah.
If you don't like how something's done, do it yourself.
Pretty much.
So, yeah, I remember coming over to that house and meeting you guys and starting to jam. And that's kind of where we started playing guitar together. Mm-hmm. Those were some early songs. I don't know if any of those songs still exist. Maybe Mayday.
Mayday does.
Yeah, I remember you guys showing me that then.
Yep.
And we kind of jammed that out the first few jams out there in Martinez.
It's closed every set since, too.
Wow, yeah. I mean, that song really has just stood the test of time, or at least we think so.
Yeah.
So Clavo Oxidado's kind of wrapping up. They're working on a record that's out in Martinez. We meet, and we kind of form what became the Teenage Exchange, I think was the name of that band.
I think that's, it wound up being...
Did we play 2 or 3 shows, right?
We played 2 or 3, and then I just didn't have... I didn't have time because we were trying to do the Clavo Oxidado thing still, and I just kind of got... At that time, I was living in Knightson, and I was driving to Martinez.
You're 45 minutes from Martinez.
Yeah, and that's right about the time when... shit started to hit in the fan with all the freeways, and traffic legitly became a
locked
thing
up on Highway
here.
4. Yeah. Anybody out here would know Highway 4 is just notorious for having the worst traffic.
Man.
So you kind of bow out of that after 6 months or so, and we write some songs, play some shows, and that is when I asked Drew and Rudy to join Civil War Rust. Civil War Rust was still working at that time. Those guys joined the band. And we start playing some shows, and that is also around the time you and me start writing some songs just on acoustic guitars.
Yeah, I kind of went through a period where Clavo Oxidado, I was like, I'm tired of playing music with people. It became a chore. I lived so far away. I was in a relationship that I couldn't just up and relocate myself. And playing music with people became a chore, and I had one of those quarter life crises, whatever. 6 years of high school education, can't figure that one out. But I had a midlife crisis or quarter life crisis, and decided,
just bowed out.
What the fuck am I doing with myself? And I went back to college for a month, and then I was like, yeah, this still sucks. And then I just wanted to play music with myself, so I started writing songs on the acoustic guitar, and I found out you were doing the same, and we played a couple shows together. We did more than a couple shows.
Yeah, at that time you were still in Knights, and I was living in Oakley in the back of someone's house. And we kind of met, got back together playing the acoustic songs, and really started, picked up some of those songs from Teenage Exchange, kept those things going, and started playing some shows. Yeah, we played everywhere from the Broken Wheel, which was out in Brentwood, for those that remember that, out to the Mutiny, which of course was doing well at that time. Civil War Rust was playing there, and that really was a good time, I thought. I mean, that was really a DIY. I mean, we were playing shows where we would bring the PA, book all the bands, work the door, charge the $5 at the door if it was a donation, if we even could get that. And then pay, the other guys out at the end of the night, and we'd go buy a bottle of Jack Daniels or something.
There you go.
It really was a good time, and there was a lot to learn at that time. So that kind of gets us to where you joined Civil War Rust. At that time, Zach, our longtime bass player, decided he was no longer interested in playing in music, and was, taking his own life turn.
Yeah. Still doing well and still not playing music. He wound up making the right choice for himself. There you go. Too, so.
Bows out, and at that same time you said, hey, you know what? I'm ready to get back into it.
Yeah.
So without missing a beat, the same time Zach bows out, Sean says he wants to play, and we just keep Civil War Rust going. And that's kind of where we started making some forward progress outside of East County.
Yeah.
We had played Roosters, we had played the Metro, all shows that had been booked for us, but we really weren't ready to do much else. And at that point, we kind of got getting into San Francisco and started taking it a little more serious. And that was you, me, Rudy, and Drew.
Yeah.
So that was the first formation of Civil War Rust. We're going to come back and get into that, kind of get into the fun and the lonely, recording at New Tone Studios, of course, with Willie. And then kind of talk about some other things that happened right around then. Your short-lived career at Ant Magazine, and of course, Why I Hate, and all those, and both of us moving to Martinez.
Yeah.
So we'll be right back with a little bit more with Sean.
This restaurant, it sucks. Dining dead with their chapped lips and bothered eyes. Waitress, she's swifting or dreaming, who cares? She says the same. And all the tables look the same. Well, every night she got drinks and shaking. Parking lot was cold, heater and lump and broke. We just laughed and now in the background. Well, I hear the same. Come on. Well, every night. See her out moving. I'm far away. I'm dreaming. I got nothing left within me. Shakes to get me through the day. Well, I will set up plastic trays. Simple words. We know let you down. Deep promises that I'll never throw away. I know I let you down. I know I let you. She just waits to say goodbye when I'm not coming home. No, not tonight. No, not tonight.
All right, welcome back. And we are kind of talking how Sean joined Civil War Rust. And about that time, I know both of us moved into Martinez. And I feel like that was a moment that we kind of decided, hey, we got to get out of the far deep east and kind of try and make something happen.
Yeah, I feel like both of us had spent our entire lives either in the town that we grew up in or towns right next to those towns. And I feel like we were spending so much time in the Oakland, San Francisco area that it was like, we need to get closer because this is what we're doing, Like
Yeah, it was definitely time to make moves.
Yeah.
So we get out to Martinez. We start working, at Civil War Rust, recording, playing a lot of shows, and we kind of get started with writing and getting the fun and the lonely together. At that time is when you kind of meet Brett and start working with Ant Magazine alongside Lisa and Shrum.
Yeah.
And start a band with Brett, Why I Hate.
Yeah, so they were already a band. They were established and looking for a bass player, and I started playing with them and met Nick White, who was in one of my favorite bands growing up, Divot. He was the drummer of that, and I started playing with them, and then started interning at the magazine, and then worked at the magazine for the last couple years. I think it was maybe like 2 years, year and a half. And we were, doing the Why I Hate, doing the Ant Magazine, writing the Fun and the Lonely, which that was a crazy experience in and of itself because I had never really written a record and kind of felt like I was going crazy. Yeah. But, we started writing the Fun and the Lonely. I thought I was going to go crazy because this is the first time we've ever had someone like helping us out, being like, you guys could do better. You could do better. And
and this is working alongside Willie Samuels from New Tone and Studio Trilogy.
Absolutely.
Kind of dropping in every 6 months or 3 months to listen to us play and going,
Yeah, and it was like, hey, maybe we should rewrite this part. And I feel like 80% of the songs on the Fun and the Lonely have 5 different outtakes on it. I feel like we recorded that record 5 times before we finally recorded it.
Yeah, definitely. I know that we went in with Robbie to record probably
had to buy that guy hella hamburgers.
Yeah, bought him a dozen hamburgers, recorded all those songs, and re-recorded them. And yeah, I remember a lot of the choruses and everything changing.
Yeah.
And usually, I mean, for the better, of course. And so the Fun and the Lonely, we end up going into New Tone Studios, which is out in Pittsburgh.
Yep.
With Willie. Is that your first experience with Willie?
That was my first experience with Willie, yeah. And I've listened and owned a lot of fucking records that he recorded. And a lot of them I didn't know he had recorded until after the fact. And I was nervous and excited. And I think that's probably why it was such a good experience. Like, I feel like...
Totally. I check out Willie's stuff. Would love to get him in here soon. So we get in there, we get into New Tone Studios. We've got, I think we had 11 songs, maybe 12 songs. Yeah. And it's a process. Yeah. It's a going in once a week, but it's a few months.
Yeah.
To get everything together. Just getting everybody's schedules to line up, including the engineer. And so we get in there, and about halfway through, I have a great memory of that, is we kind of go in to start on vocals. Uh-huh. And that was when Willie kicked us all out of the studio at that point. And we had recorded takes on all the songs, or tried, and Willie said, I think you guys ought to go and take some vocal lessons. Yep. Meet me back here in a month or two. Yeah. Because none of you guys know what you're doing. And I think that was a great lesson for both of us.
Yeah, we just had to... He basically was like, look, your voices are your voices. You need to learn how to breathe. It's going to make it a lot better. And so, took a month, did the work, came back, and, I'm happy with how that record came out. And
yeah, sitting on this month actually marks 5 years since that record's been released.
Holy shit.
And we probably worked on it for a year or two up until then.
Yeah.
So looking back, what was your experience that time at New Tone? It was overall good?
Yeah, it was awesome. It's the first time that I had worked with an engineer that wasn't just trying to get a paycheck and was just as dedicated and cared about the project as much as we did. And to have him be like, yo, your music's great, your vocals, they need work. Go work on them and come back. Stop wasting time and money. Let's do this right. And,
it didn't sit and do 100 takes.
It hurt. It kind of stung a little, but at the same time, I was able to look at it and be like, oh, okay, this guy cares. And it pushed me. It pushed all of us, And I felt that was one of the things that made that record so special to me,
Yeah, it was a great record to work on. And yeah, I mean, it was a long time in the making for anybody that was involved. We all know that. So the Fun and the Lonely comes out, and Civil War Rust starts going on some tours up and down the coast, of course, meeting a lot of the bands that we love now and still play with. But I know a couple of our first runs were to the Way Out West Fest in Arizona. Yeah. And I think we met a lot of important bands, or definitely great friends, if anything. I know that's where we met Success, all the guys from La Scalera Records, the Bomb Pops,
French Exit, man,
French Exit, just so many bands. Yeah, what a great band. Yeah, it really was a pleasure to play with those guys as often as we got to, going down and doing VLHS all the way to do Way Out West Fest. Yeah, really was a great time. So going and touring from down to San Diego, up to Seattle, that's all on the Fun and the Lonely. What's your experience touring on that record?
It was great to get out of town with the band. Some of the first shows in the first towns weren't like the best shows, but we got out there again, and that was when I noticed, like, you have to work, you have to...
You have to show up in these towns.
Yeah, you have to continuously go back, because you go and 5 people there catch it and they're like, oh, that's awesome. And then those 5 people bring 1 or 2 friends each, and then it's like 10 to 15 people, and it kind of just keeps growing and growing. And that was kind of like the experience that I enjoyed and loved about that, is it was like, if you do the work, you're going to get a payout. And you're not going to instantly start doing stadium shows or none of that. Like, that's silly.
Or theaters or even clubs.
No, like none of that. It's like, you keep playing basements and garages and bedrooms
and free shows,
dive bars and parks and warehouses. Like, that shit's awesome.
And that all, kind of builds the steam. Mm-hmm. So that is, coming off of the Fun and the Lonely. We do have a change in the band. Chris joins the band, who is still our current guitar player, and we start working on Help Wanted right away. I mean, I think there was songs written for Help Wanted, after the Fun and the Lonely came out.
Yeah, I feel like there's 1 or 2 songs that we wrote at the very end of the Fun and the Lonely sessions that we just didn't have time to get on there, and they kind of sparked that fire and drive to start working on Help Wanted.
Yeah, so Help Wanted probably gets started in 2000 and I'd say probably 2013.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
And we start working with that. And at that point, we kind of decided we're going to start releasing our own records, or at least being part of that. And that kind of stemmed from the Fun and the Lonely with All for Hope Records. Also helped co-released by La Escalera, Solidarity, and Say 10 Records from Richmond, who were all still very close with all those labels. Def Cow Records comes out, and that's where you start releasing music, with me. What have you experienced so far with Def Cow? Why is it important to release your own music? What bands do you want to release?
I want to release bands that are stoked off of doing the work. I feel like there's a lot of bands out there that think that things should just happen, and it's not. You're in control of your own destiny,
Sure.
You get out of things as much as you put into it, and I feel like that's one of the things that we learned with the Fun and the Lonely is we can't sit around and wait for things to happen for us. Like, we have to take control of it. And you and I had talked about putting a label together for a long time, and so when we realized, wow, we're working and we're touring and we're selling merch, we have all this money that we're bringing in, let's dump it right back in. And so we paid for our recording, and then by the time the recording was done, we'd played more shows and had more money. It's like, well, let's put our record out. Like, why? We paid for everything, let's just keep doing it. And it's DIY, man. Like, everything goes in circles, and I feel like punk rock music has become this thing that's become marketable. It's become part of the mainstream, that it's the ethic that's going to make it punk rock again, and not the music per se.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, sticking to the roots,
doing
of
it
what
yourself.
made it.
Yeah. Fat Records started out as a record label that Mike put his music out on and his friends' music out on, and they still do it. Like, why wouldn't you do that? Why wouldn't you learn from someone else's successes? And they were doing that when record labels were still
generating a large income.
Yeah, and now labels aren't doing anything but causing debt for bands, and so it's like,
in a
why?
lot of cases.
Yeah.
So yeah, the experience with Def Cow Records has been great. We've been able to help out some of our friends,
Absolutely.
in reunions, and also Square Crow, and of course coming out on CD soon, False Positives. And then also we've helped out Twin Screw Steamer, which is another band you play in, with some of the cast of Why I Hate. Yeah,
so Why I Hate wound up going the way of the dodo, as a lot of good things always do. Nothing is permanent. Life happened again. People had kids. People had job changes. I went through a breakup and was homeless in my van and made the move to Oakland, and I didn't lose contact with the guys from Why I Hate. We kind of just went our own ways, and Nick and I reconnected, who played drums in Why I Hate, and we started playing stuff on acoustic guitars, and our idea was to get a drummer and a bass player, and Nick and I were going to play guitar. And then I eventually had to have that hard conversation with Nick where I was like, nah, dude, you're going to play drums.
We're not going to find a better drummer.
Nah. And I'm going to continue to play guitar. So you get to just play the instrument and I'm going to learn a new one. And that's how Twin Screw Steamer started. We got Robbie in there now. So again, Robbie from the .commies shows up, and I'm still stoked to have that guy as a friend and
one
accomplice
of the
in
great
crime.
guitar players from out here, inside the scene. He may not think it, but we all look at him like, wow, this guy can play. And then of course KT playing the bass now.
KT playing bass.
Fist. So quite a cool lineup in that band. The one release that's came out is Tread Water.
Yeah.
And I really love that album. I thought it was one of the best of last year. It was short,
thanks, man.
Of course. 6 songs, 7 songs.
It's not the size of the record; it's how you rock it, man.
That's it. It's not always the size that counts. You got that right. I think a lot of bands could learn from that also. Not every song needs to be over 2 minutes.
Yeah, that was recorded by Pat Hills out in Sacramento.
Okay, Tone Recordings.
Yeah.
Pat, we've talked about him before. Check him out if you're in the Sacramento area. So Twin Screw Steamer doing pretty well. You guys are still working on putting out a full length?
Yeah, we've been working on a full length ever since we put that one out. That band started as just kind of like a hangout, a reason for us 5 dudes to hang out, because Brandon is the singer, also from Why I Hate. Brandon sings in Twin Screw Steamer, and it was just a reason for guys that didn't have time to hang out. We made time to hang out. That's where we go and catch up.
Yeah, a lot of times the best product can come from that.
Mm-hmm.
So then jumping back over to getting into Help Wanted and getting into the studio for that, we ended up recording that in Studio Trilogy in San Francisco.
Right.
Which may or may not any longer be functioning. I'm not sure. Once again with Willie Samuels.
Mm-hmm.
And we go in, you, me, Drew, and Chris, and jump into that. That was 2 different sessions, each one a few weekends to put together that album. Help Wanted, we ended up putting out ourselves on Def Cow, and Say 10 Records helped out with that. Help Wanted came out, had some decent reviews. We haven't been able to do as much touring as we'd like to on it. What do you look at when you see that record?
That record to me is like a turning point, I feel like, in my life. Like music, all of my music, it's my art, it's how I express myself. And Help Wanted started as a cry for help, like to, like something's not right, someone help. But then it kind of turned into this, no one's going to do it for you. Like something clicked in the writing of that record. And to me, that's what I love about that record, is the flow of it. And I kind of feel like that record was very therapeutic. When we were done with it and I got it back and I listened to it the first time through, there was a giant weight lifted off of my shoulders. There was times of desperation on it, and then closing it the way, like that record had closure. And to me, that Help Wanted signifies a point in my life where I was dealing with some addiction issues and
some deep stuff. Being
homeless twice, living in a van. The best purchase I've ever had is that house on wheels.
Yeah, still sitting out front right now.
It was, it was that record. While it started as a cry for help, wound up being like an eye-opening, a savior for me. Just getting all that stuff off my chest and then hearing it back, it helped.
Yeah, definitely. I feel the same about that record. It definitely embodies DIY for me.
Mm-hmm.
And really, reaching out to everybody to help, and then finally saying, I guess we have to do this. And really putting some time into it. And I loved all those songs, as you introduced them, and as we worked through some of them, and I brought some in also. It was really a great process. And then, of course, working with Willie again and in Studio Trilogy, which was just a beautiful experience,
Yeah, Willie's kind of become our 5th or 6th member, if you still want to count Shrum as one. I don't know. Of course we do.
Yeah, you definitely got Shrum and Willie, and that really kind of rounds out the 6-member crew that is CWR. So, yeah, I really loved the experience of doing Help Wanted. And also, being able to put that out with Def Cow Records. Other things coming up for you soon. Is there a solo record? I know I'm always telling you to do it, man.
I'm always working on stuff. I definitely have started. I'm about 3 or 4 songs into an acoustic record, an acoustic record. I've been wanting to do it for a really, really long time. It's just a way for me to get out on the road.
Visit friends.
Yeah, you know.
Go stay on couches.
After doing tours and stuff, it's kind of hard to justify going on vacations. I feel like I should be doing something and then earning money on my vacation. Not making money, but paying for the trip.
Yeah, at least getting some free drinks and a place to crash.
Yeah, absolutely. And the acoustic record is something I've always wanted to do, and I've just never seen it through, and I feel like I've learned some tricks over the years that, shit, man, I'm just going to do it because no one's going to do it for me.
Yeah, exactly. I think that taking that and doing an acoustic record would be really cool.
Mm-hmm.
We definitely all encourage you here to do that. Coming up, Twin Screw Steamer, you guys said you're working on a full-length album. Civil War Rust, we're back, we're writing.
Yep.
We'll see what comes of that.
Yep.
It just seems to be like a never-ending story with that band,
Yeah, man. Till till all the wheels fall off. But,
Yeah,
you know.
exactly. Well, I want to thank you again for coming out. Is there any last message that you have for the listeners, for up and comers, for people playing music, for the guy just picking up his first guitar? What would be your word of advice to them?
Man, I would say, do what makes you happy. That's
Yeah.
it. Like if you're doing something that doesn't make you happy, or you're doing things that people are telling you to do because they think you should do, like, fuck all that. Do what makes you happy. It doesn't matter what anyone else thinks. If you put a positive energy out there, something that you're happy with, you're going to attract positive energy back. You're going to attract people to you that enjoy and appreciate what you're doing. And that's the full circle,
Yeah, and if it's coming from an honest, true place, I think it really shines brighter. And
you can't be in a band without listeners, and listeners can't be listeners without a band. So as long as everyone are being true to themselves
and does their part,
it's harmony, man.
And that connection, I would agree with you. Excited to see what comes out next. What songs you've been working on with the acoustic album, and excited to be a part of whatever might come out. So for this episode of 80 West, this is Ryan signing off. I want to thank Sean again for coming out, man. I hope you had a good time tonight.
I did. Thank you very much for having me, and thank you all
on.
for listening.
Sounds good. We'll be back on our next episode. Talk to you guys soon.
Way to go. They preach about it on the busted ass radio. Turn it off, it's killing what makes you great. You're beautiful in every way, like this broken fucking city that's covered in paint, and there is nowhere else that I'd rather go. I'm going out in the middle of the night, again and again and again. It's true. Fits you well enough to keep me close to you. Take it off, it's constricting what makes you great. You're beautiful in every way, like this gentrified city that's covered in flames, and there is nowhere else that I'd rather go. I'm going